A young woman goes missing in broad daylight. It was like a plot lifted straight from the pages of a Gillian Flynn novel. But for family and friends of Sherri Papini, it was real life. Sherri made national headlines in 2016 when she made claims she was abducted by 2 Hispanic women while jogging. For 22 days, her family, police, the Redding community she called home, and even strangers from around the world did everything they could to find her, from raising money to holding press conferences, conducting search parties, and even renting helicopters to aid in the search to find her. But just as suddenly as she had vanished, she reappeared on Thanksgiving Day, nearly 150 miles south of her home. She was found along the highway still wearing restraints around her wrists, ankles, and waist. There were scabs and bruises all over her body. She was branded on her right shoulder, and her long hair had been chopped off. Once she was home, the focus went from trying to find her to trying to find her abductors. For years, people have speculated as to whether or not she was telling the truth. On one hand, there were glaring abnormalities and damning information discovered. But on the other hand, people argued there was no way someone would do something like this to themselves. Right? Well, wrong. We don't need to speculate anymore because according to Sherri herself, it was all a lie. Wait until you hear about the latest updates in the Sherri Papini case and how she went from the real-life gone girl to guilty. I'm Brooke, and welcome to Armchair Investigator. If you aren't up to date on Sherri Papini and what happened in 2016, I recommend pausing this video and watching the deep dive I did on it in March. I'll link it in the description box for you. Since that video, the U.S. Attorney's Office in Sacramento charged Sherri with wire fraud and lying to authorities. She was arrested on March 3rd and released from Sacramento County Jail on March 8th on $120,000 bail. U.S. Magistrate Judge Jeremy Peterson did impose several restrictions as a condition of her release, including mandated psychiatric treatment, the surrender of her passport, and absolutely no access to firearms or ammunition. She was due to appear in federal court for a preliminary hearing on March 25th, but it was delayed after both the defense and government agreed more time was needed to prepare and investigate. In an email to the Redding Record Searchlight, a spokesman for the U.S. Attorney's Office said, quote, "The parties further agree that the interests of justice served by granting this continuance outweigh the best interests of the public and the defendant in a speedy trial." That's legal talk for you aren't going to be getting any hot tea spilled just yet. After years of sticking to her story, in what some might call a shocking turn of events, on Monday, April 18th, Sherri formally pled guilty to faking her own abduction and lying to the FBI. She agreed to plead guilty in a deal reached with prosecutors where they agreed to recommend a sentence on the low end of the sentencing range, estimated to be somewhere between 8 and 14 months in custody. A cakewalk compared to the maximum she was facing, which was 25 years for the 2 charges. As of right now, she's scheduled to be sentenced on July 11th. Besides doing time behind bars, she's facing a mountain owed in fines and fees. She's agreed to pay restitution of more than $300,000 to federal, state, and local agencies, which will include the cost of the search for her that crossed over several states and the investigation into the women she claimed had abducted her. Let me break down what she'll owe and to who. She owes the California Victims' Compensation Board $30,694.15 for things like therapy, her ambulance ride, and new blinds for her home. She owes the United States Social Security Administration $127,567.60 for disability benefits she received based on her claims of being a victim of a crime. She owes the Shasta County Sheriff's Office $148,866.23, and she owes the FBI $2,558.35. That brings us to a grand total of $309,686.33. Yikes. The old pocketbook is gonna feel that one. Now, she didn't offer up any explanation for the hoax or how she came up with the story about 2 Hispanic women abducting her, but her attorney, William Portanova, has said that he doubts even she knows why she lied, alluding to her having a, quote-unquote, very complicated mental health situation. She released a statement through her attorney saying, "I am deeply ashamed of myself for my behavior and so sorry for the pain I've caused my family, my friends, and all the good people who needlessly suffered because of my story and those who worked so hard to try to help me. I will work the rest of my life to make amends for what I have done." Of course, not everyone is buying the mental illness argument. Prosecutors say Sherri planned the abduction for more than a year. Forensic psychiatrist Dr. Ian Lamoureux weighed in on the matter, saying, "It's a mistake to assume mental illness is the cause of unusual behavior." Now, it's important to note that he has not treated Sherri, but he does provide expert witness opinion and specializes in complicated criminal and civil cases. He says the level of organization and planning she put into the hoax would make conditions such as schizophrenia, bipolar disorder, and depression an unlikely explanation. He offers up 3 possibilities instead. She may have expected that the abduction would bring her a level of fame, maybe some sort of financial gain, or a way to avoid some type of external event that was about to happen, say like a divorce or job termination, and instead turn the focus to her being victimized. During Sherri's half-hour court hearing, she didn't offer any explanation or go into detail about why she did what she did. When the judge asked her how she was feeling, she tearfully said, "I feel very sad." Later in the hearing, he asked her, "Were you kidnapped?" She said, "No, Your Honor." When the judge asked, "Did you lie to government agents when you told them you were kidnapped?" Sherri replied, "Yes, Your Honor." Besides having eyes on Sherri, the world has also been watching her husband Keith to see what he would do in response to all the information uncovered. For years, Keith appeared to support his wife, even as she maintained that she had been abducted at gunpoint, even when investigators discovered she had been talking to other men, and even when male DNA was discovered on her underwear and proven not to have been Keith's. But all that changed when he filed for divorce just 2 days after Sherri pled guilty to 1 count each of lying to a federal officer and mail fraud. In his April 20th divorce filing, besides asking to dissolve their 13-year marriage, Keith filed for sole custody of their 2 children ages 9 and 7. In a declaration for the Shasta County Family Court, Keith wrote, quote, "The whole problem started in November 2016 when Sherri left our children at a daycare and simply disappeared. Both I and especially our children were traumatized by her disappearance, and I spent much time and money trying to find my wife. The trauma inflicted on our children at the unexpected loss of their mother was heartbreaking," adding that the fallout from the abduction hoax has kept life in turmoil for the family ever since. Keith also references Sherri's March 3rd arrest, which, unfortunately, her children witnessed, saying, "In March 2022, Sherri Papini was literally tackled by law enforcement officers while arresting her, all in the immediate presence of our children. They were again traumatized. After she was released from jail, she assured them that the arrest was all a mistake. The children have now learned that their mother lied to them about her disappearance, lied to them about how she was abused by 2 Hispanic women, and lied to them about her arrest." He went on to say that because she's facing prison time and has agreed to pay hundreds of thousands of dollars in restitution, he doesn't believe she's in a position to provide good parenting. Besides seeking sole custody, he's also asking for all of their property, including their home, 3 cars, their boat, and their RV. He's asking to be cleared of any responsibility for Sherri's debts, which include 2 loans from her mother-in-law and any obligations arising from her criminal behavior. Many have also wondered whether her ex-boyfriend James Reyes would be facing any criminal charges, and it doesn't appear so. He hasn't been charged with any crimes. In fact, Shasta County Sheriff Sergeant Kyle Wallace stated, "I think the easiest way to describe it is he was doing what a friend asked. Because she asked to be hit, she asked to be burned, and he just went along with what she said. It's 2 consenting adults." As far as James not coming forward once he realized what was happening, police stated that there's no law that makes somebody have an obligation to report what they know. I do think James had good and noble intentions. I believe he just wanted to help Sherri get out of the abusive situation she claimed she was in. I still have to wonder, though, what was going through his mind when Sherri chopped off her hair and started giving herself bruises all over her body? I can't imagine it was easy for him returning home from work, wondering what he'd be walking into on any given day with her there. And get this, detectives said that had she told the truth when she returned home, she would have been criminally clean, meaning no charges would have been brought against her. She could have went on living life. Ultimately, police thought she felt like she just had to continue on with the story rather than admit what she had done to herself. Crazy. What do you think about the plea deal she accepted? Do you think she deserves to do more time behind bars, or do you think the 8 to 14 months in custody plus the massive amount of money she has to repay is adequate punishment to fit the crime? Let me know your thoughts. If you enjoyed today's video, give it a thumbs up, and hey, while you're at it, consider subscribing to the channel so you don't miss out on the next investigation.